These are excellent bloopers for the end of this video.
No!
Oh my goodness. You guys, first thing that you need to know is I was right. More on that in a second. Ben wants to say hi. You good now? So as you may notice, I am combining the 13 and 14 week update because honestly, everything has been the same. Like, I've been dealing with the same crap for the last 2 weeks. So my last update, I told you that I went to the doctor for my initial OB appointment. She did an internal ultrasound and said that she found nothing. And she said she found no evidence of where the bleeding was coming from. She's like, I can see that there's, you know, some old blood left in here, but I don't see where it was coming from, and everything looks fine on the ultrasound. So you could just go back to your daily activities. Yeah, everything's not fine. I called the doctor on Monday. Okay, this was, shoot, how long? Okay. When was this? 2 Mondays. Okay, so on the 16th, I called her to tell her that I had had more spotting. And I also wanted to ask her about working out because I would like to work out this pregnancy. I have not actually worked out while pregnant before, which is probably why I gained so much weight. Like, I want to work out, but I'm like, I was afraid to. And so I told her that the spotting usually happened like the day after I had done some physical activity. And by physical activity, I mean like housework, okay? Nothing crazy. So when the nurse called me back, because I left a voicemail with all that information, the nurse called me back and she's like, well, if there's a cancellation this afternoon, you can come in at like, I think it's 4:30, 4 o'clock. And we can do another ultrasound and check, you know, or you can just wait till your next appointment. And I'm like, well, something is clearly up, so I want to get checked out again. Luckily, the intended mom could come with me to that appointment. The intended father had gone out of town for work, so he wasn't able to come, but the intended mom met me there and was with me during the appointment. So after the medical assistants, I had literally been there the week before, right? And they like took my weight, took my blood pressure, sat me down in the room and started asking questions. And I'm like, well, it hasn't changed since last week when I was here. So no. When they left the room, I asked them, I'm like, do I need to undress, you know, from the waist down? Because I figured the doctor was going to do another internal ultrasound. And the medical assistant said no. And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird, but all right. So we wait. The doctor finally comes in and she, you know, asked me a couple of questions about, you know, frequency, and she's like, and you're noticing it happening after you're doing activities? I'm like, yeah, like I'll walk around and do laundry and dishes and, you know, various things. I get kind of crampy, and so like I sit down for a while, but then the next day I'm like spotting again. So this time when I'm at the office, instead of doing an internal ultrasound, she does an external ultrasound. At this point, all the ultrasounds that I had gotten were internal. The difference between an internal ultrasound and an external ultrasound is an internal ultrasound is a transvaginal ultrasound. So when you're laying down, it looks this direction, right? An external ultrasound looks this direction. So it's a completely 90-degree angle difference on the view. She puts the ultrasound wand on my stomach, right, to do the external ultrasound. Immediately the baby kicks me and I felt it. So for the last week or so, I've been feeling movement and thought I was crazy. Thought that I was hallucinating because I was feeling the baby kick, or what I thought was the baby kicking. But in my brain, I'm like, Like, there's no way. There's no way this is a baby. It's too small. It's too early. There's no freaking way this is possibly the kid doing it. No, it's the baby. At 12 weeks, 12 weeks, I started feeling this kid moving. And they're not like flutters like most women say that it starts out feeling like. Is that the right word? I feel like my grammar is all crisscrossy. Most of the time, when you start feeling the baby kick, it feels like flutters, like there's a butterfly in your stomach or something. This was like full on like tap, 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 like like the little girl, what was her name? Darla from Finding Nemo, like tapping on my glass. Totally in my mind, that's what I pictured. It's definitely the baby kicking. And I felt some pretty hard kicks since then. Not all the time, not every day. It's like maybe every 3 or 4 days I'll get like a hard one. The other day I was driving home and like it kicked me and I looked down and I'm like, well then. Like, it is very hard. So anyway, the doctor starts doing the ultrasound, right? She's looking around and I immediately see something and I'm like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew this. Yep. Yep. And the doctor's sitting there doing the ultrasound. She goes, huh. And I'm like, huh? Don't make that noise. Like, I literally said that. I'm like, don't make that noise. She's like looking around and I'm seeing this black spot get bigger and bigger. And I'm like, oh my word, it's a hematoma. I bet you anything it's a hematoma. So she's looking around, not saying anything this whole time. And I'm like, this is very disconcerting. Please say something. She's like, it looks like there's another gestational sac. When you're pregnant, the baby in your uterus is growing inside the gestational sac, right? It's got the placenta on like the wall, and then there's this membrane, this thin membrane that goes around the baby. She's like, it looks like there's another one in there. And I'm like, that's impossible. They put one baby in there, and I've had 2 or 3 ultrasounds since they put the baby in there, and there's only ever been one. So that's not a thing, but like, that's how big it was, okay? She told us, I mean, she measured the baby, she measured the heart rate, everything was fine. At that point, she said the baby was about 6 centimeters long from like top of its head to the butt, basically. 6 centimeters, so it's like, I think she said it was like this. And the black area next to where the baby was at was like the same size as the thing the baby was floating in, the gestational sac. Like, it was the same size, which is gigantic for a hematoma. Like, that's huge. The ones that I've had before were like teeny tiny little spots. Yeah, no, it's gigantic. But she's like, I know you guys only transferred 1 embryo. It's like, yeah, the other ultrasounds never showed more than 1 baby. So like, that can't be what it is. So the reason none of the other ultrasounds saw it was because they were all going this angle and this ultrasound was going this angle. So basically it was hiding behind the baby the entire time. From what I can figure, the hematoma is basically like on the top, because when you do the internal ultrasound, it looks this direction, so you wouldn't see it. And when you look this way, it would see the hematoma and then it would see the baby. That's my thought. I didn't ask her specifically where it was, but that's my guess. So she's like, yeah, it's possibly a subchorionic hematoma. And I'm like, I know it is. I know it is. She referred me to imaging to get another ultrasound done. Basically, she wanted a radiologist, I guess, to see it and to get a second opinion, I suppose. She's like, here's the information. If they don't call you by tomorrow, call them, set something up. I thought she was talking about getting it done at the hospital, but apparently there's an imaging place near my work, which was way closer. So when they called me to set up, they're like, oh yeah, we can fit you in at 1 o'clock today. And I'm like, okay. Like the next day when they called. So I went in for that, and I'm pretty sure the ultrasound tech measured the wrong thing, because there was like a teeny tiny little round spot that she saw, but when she measured the teeny tiny spot and not the giant like diamond shaped thing inside my uterus. When I got the report, it said that the hematoma was 1 by 0.6 by 0.6 centimeters. If the baby is 6 centimeters, how could it be 1 centimeter when it was bigger than the baby? Like, I don't understand. The doctor called me later that day and she's like, yep, you're right, it's a hematoma. And I'm like, I knew it. I was right. Okay, let it be known, I was right. Basically, she put me on pelvic rest. She restricted all my activities. I'm not allowed to lift anything heavy, etc., etc., etc. She's like, oh, but you can walk for exercise if you want to. No, I can't. No, I can't. Like, I can't walk for exercise because I start cramping just standing. That's how bad this is. Like, I am going to reach out to my agency on Monday and be like, hey, I can't do housework without cramping and then starting to spot. So, like, we need to figure something out because my floors need to be swept. The toilet needs to be cleaned. Like, the sink needs to be, there's so much that needs to be done, and I can't do it because then I start spotting and bleeding. Like, I started cramping cooking dinner one time. That's all I did. That's all I was doing. Cooking dinner. Doing laundry. Like, not even doing that much. I'm doing probably 50% of what I was doing before I was pregnant or before this all started. Probably less than 50% at this point, and I'm still having issues. So the last update where I was talking about all the things that I got done, like laundry and dishes, and I can't remember. I'll put a card up here. You can go watch that if you missed it. Basically, my like revised chores that I do on Sundays, and ended up having bleeding Monday. Had to leave work because I was bleeding and cramping. And like the cramping didn't stop until after I went to sleep. I don't know when it stopped because when I went to bed, I was still cramping. And it hurt a lot. Like driving home was so hard. Then I had to take Tuesday off because anytime I got up out of bed, I started cramping again. And at this point, I feel like I'm fighting my own body. My body's like, we're gonna cramp. And I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Calm down. Stop it. Yeah, so walking is totally out of the question. I mean, I've done 1 load of laundry. I put in another load. I made breakfast. I'm making this video, and I've already had cramping today. That's all I did. That's it. Not that much. It's so frustrating. So yeah, I definitely need to contact them and be like, hey, I need someone to help me with the housework because like my 12-year-old can't do all of that himself. I could barely get all of it done in 1 day. There's no way. He's already like unloading the dishwasher and cleaning the litter boxes because I'm not allowed to do it. And like he has some other things he does too, but like to add sweeping the floor, cleaning the bathroom, doing this and this and this. And yeah, it's just the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? So my next appointment is February 7, and we'll see what the hematoma looks like this time. I'm hoping that it is much smaller, even though I'm still having issues with it every time I try to do anything. I really want to get like a printed out, you know, the ultrasound picture so I can show you what it looks like. I'm hoping before I finish editing this video, I will be able to show you guys how freaking huge this hematoma is. So after I got off the phone with the doctor, I had a phone call with the outreach coordinator at my church, and I told her, hey, I I can't do dropper swap anymore. I can't lead it. I can't be there. I can't work. I explained the whole situation and told her about the surrogacy. So I hadn't really told everybody at church about it, and I still haven't. They'll find out. So I explained everything to her and explained about the hematoma and that the doctor was like, hey, you can't do physical activity. And I told her, dropper swap is very physical. You're standing for 2 hours. You're bending, lifting, twisting, all the things. I can't do that. If I can't even cook dinner, there's no freaking way I'm gonna do dropper swap for 2 hours. There's no way. It's too physically demanding is what it is for me. For like a normal person, it's fine. I cannot do dropper swap. So I told her that, and she's like, okay, well, you know, if you think of anybody to take over, let me know. I was like, I've been thinking, and I honestly can't think of anybody that is willing to do it, because it's a lot. It's a lot. It's not just the 2 hours that you're there. It's, you know, answering the Facebook questions and comments and stuff, and it's answering the messages that you get throughout the week and in between the events. I've been doing it, I've been leading it for about 2.5 years now. 2 of those years I had a co-leader who, you know, we would do it together. Sometimes I couldn't make it, sometimes she couldn't make it, but one of us was always there. And since she left, we switched to twice a month instead of just once a month. So I've done a year's worth of dropper swaps in 6 months, basically, because we do it twice a month instead of once a month. I am burnt out, basically. I mean, this is kind of a blessing in disguise where it's like, you need to slow down. If you don't slow down, I'm gonna make you slow down. I mean, it sucks that I had to leave suddenly, but at the same time, like, I can't put the baby at risk for a community outreach project. Like, I'm not willing to do that. I'm hoping this next week will be a little bit better. It seems like every Monday I have an issue. So I'm hoping if I do even less today, that this week will be easier. It's hard because even just doing my job at work, by like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, I start getting crampy. And I sit most of the time. Like, I sit at a desk. I need to lay down. I don't know. I tried laying down and then started bleeding. So laying down at work is probably not the best. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just hoping that it stops. I mean, I'm still spotting almost daily, even though I'm trying my best not to do any physical activities. It's really hard, especially when you're a single mom. Like, can you imagine? You're responsible for everything, and then something happens to where you can only do like 25% of it. Like, what are you supposed to do? Honestly, I'm asking, what am I supposed to do? No, I'm definitely gonna ask the agency about me being able to hire some housekeeper or something to come in, and like even an hour on a Sunday would be so helpful because they could move much faster than I can. I'm just being very intentional with my movements and trying not to get up too fast or get down or, you know, twist and all the things. That's what I got for the 13 and 14 week update. Oh, I forgot to tell you, baby is the size of a lemon now, which, you know, depending on where you live can be big or small. Seriously, the lemons in Arizona, kid you not, they're like this big. They're huge. So maybe at your local grocery store, they're, you know, like this. That is what I got. If you enjoy this content and want to learn more about surrogacy, or you just want to support me on my journey, make sure you subscribe so you stay up to date. You can also follow me on these social medias, and I will see you guys next time.
Me too.
Bye. He hasn't been here the whole time. He was cleaning the litter boxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wash your hands?
Mm-hmm.
With soap?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. I'm safe. Bye.
Bye.
Why is it so dark?
It's not dark.
It is dark. Lines and stuff. Will you try opening
That's normal. No, the lines are normal, like the wavy lines.
Open the curtain. Maybe that'll help. Well, it's not worse. Wait. Okay, I think we're good.
3, 2, 1. Action.
Action. Anyway, the ultrasound, the doctors